What is the dumbest way you have injured yourself? I was late for class, so I started jumping down multiple steps in the stairwell. On one flight I jumped too high and hit my forehead on the bottom of the stairs one floor above. Then I fell backwards onto my back on the stairs and slid down the rest of the way. I broke my computer that was in my backpack and got a concussion. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I became curious about what the power connector on my Atari 2600 tasted like. I pulled the plug out of the back of the console and touched my tongue to it. The other end of it was plugged into the wall. It tasted like disco. Tasted like disco is the saying of 2012. I'm calling it now. When I was a kid, I put toothpaste on my top lip and grabbed my dad's razor trying to be manly and shaving. It went straight through my lip and hit my teeth. I wouldn't let my parents in to see it for an hour. I still have the scar. Felt that one. When I was a kid, one of the lights wouldn't turn on. So I climbed up on the sink, took the light bulb out and poked the socket to make sure the electricity was still working, and was promptly thrown violently to the floor. One time, when I was younger, whilst trying to sprint out of a building, I learned the hard way that many double doors have a support beam in the middle. This story is so simple, so great, so painful. Cutting hot peppers and then touching my penis. Crying in the cold bath all night. If you are ever cutting hot peppers and need to take a pee, get a volunteer to come aim for you. Hot peppers. I was cutting some habaneros. I never wore gloves because I never had problems with them before. To pickle, so I cut quite a few. It was allergy season and my eye was feeling a bit itchy, so I rubbed it. Went blind for about 30 minutes. Scared the crap out of me. I was playing with the doorknobs on my bathroom door when I was younger, and when I leaned back while holding on to them, I slipped on the wet floor. My legs went on either side of the door, and I swung testicles first into the door. I'd watch this as a dart gif. I'm a notoriously restless sleeper. I sleepwalk, sleep talk, sleep sex, the works. So not too long ago, I was at my parents' house in the room with the bed against the wall, and one morning, I was woken up by my parents running into the room in a panic. I was sitting up in bed and was banging my face against the wall. I ended up with a nosebleed and a black eye, and had no idea how, or why I'd done it. TLDR. I face planted a wall multiple times in my sleep, and my subconscious is a moron. I sleepwalk, sleep talk, sleep sex, and I was at my parents' house. Man, I'm glad your story was not heading the way I thought it will. Walked into a car door when I was 8 and got a black eye. My teacher called social services because I cried when she asked about it. I was just reliving the embarrassment. I have a similar story. When I was young, I was going to a family Christmas party. I got out of the car and saw a weird black figure under the car. I later learned this was called a muffler. I touched it and it burned. It burned like nothing has ever burned before. My parents were laughing. At age 8, after being bitten by a mosquito on my inner thigh, I decided it was a good idea to scratch the bite with my dad's razor blade. I ended up slicing open my leg. The wound required 5 sticks. My friend once purchased a denim jacket that he claimed could deflect an armed assailant from stabbing him. We tested the theory. Long story short, I stabbed my friend and the knife went right through the jacket and about a ½ inch into him. In his anger, he beat the crap out of me. When my mom got home, we had to explain why he had a stab wound and why I had a black eye. I bought a taser and was killing bugs with it. A wasp flew near me. I instinctively tried to tase it before realizing what it was. It flew into my chest and stung me. I then tased myself in the chest. I instinctively tried to tase it. Yes, the tasing instinct has been ingrained into man since the days when he had to defend himself from the Muggeropteryx and an Allosaurus. When I was 11, I was running around my house, and when I ran past to this coffee table, I nicked the corner of it with what I thought was my inside thigh. I gave it no thought and continued doing what I was doing. La la la, being a slightly chubby 11-year-old doing my thing. I remember my stomach hurting later that day, but it wasn't that bad, and so I went to bed. When I woke up, I was in the most pain that I had ever felt in my life. I couldn't move, I was just screaming. My dad runs in and is freaking out because I'm screaming my head off. He was saying, "What's wrong? "What's wrong?" I yelled at him. My balls, so he said, "Okay, well, I am going to need to look." Lifts up my boxers and first thing I hear, "Oh crap, this can't be good." Thank God he is in medicine and calls his friend who is a pediatric surgeon. The guy says this is really bad and that I need to the hospital right away. Dad carries me out to the car and we get to the hospital. The guy clears his schedule and they are waiting for me with a wheelchair. We get inside and the doctor gets me into a room, has me take off my clothes, and I see my balls. They are huge and purple. The doctor then tells me that he needs to feel my balls. At this point I'm screaming and crying, almost blackout from the pain. Then he says he can't tell what's going on and that I need immediate exploratory surgery or I could lose my testicles. I go under and come out of surgery just fine and still have both working testicles. What had happened is that when I nicked the side of the coffee table, it had twisted the tubes connecting my testicles to blood flow and cut off circulation. All they had to do was manually untwist them. Doctor said 2 or 3 more hours and I would have lost them. Testicular torsions are nothing to frick with. I think that's the medical term. I put a Q-tip in my right ear whilst I was using my computer at home. I began to type something and forgot that it was resting in my ear. A few moments later, whilst typing, I felt an itch in my ear. Rather than stop typing, I simply tilted my head towards my shoulder, which forced the Q-tip down my ear canal. Blood was shed and it was very painful. Oh God, why? In grade 11 I was at a party my friend Amy was having at her farm. When we were all good and drunk, we got into the stables, horsed up and started galloping around. I myself was not on a horse. I got stuck with the little white pony, so I'm sitting on the pony drinking my beer. Something spooks the goddamn thing and I go tumbling to the ground. I broke my ankle so bad that I needed surgery and now I have a titanium plate complete with 7 titanium screws in and on my fibula. My little frickin' pony. Lesson learned, the back of a pony is no place to horse around. My housemate asked me if he could punch me in the face and I said no, so he asked me to run into his fist and I did. I took a run up and ended up with a black eye. He assumed I was joking and would stop running before I got to him. But I never considered that running into someone's fist would actually hurt. No, officer, he really ran into my fist. One night I was brushing my teeth. I was extremely tired, and instead of putting the toothbrush in my mouth, I stabbed myself in the eye. I had to wear an eye patch for 4 weeks, and nearly blinded myself. I was at a hospital waiting room because of flu. When the doctor called my name and I started walking to his office, somehow I tripped while walking, crashing down in front of the doctor who stands there waiting to greet me. Broke my ankle. Awkward. At least you were in the right place to get injured at. I got a concussion by tripping up the stairs and crashing into a wall. I could have caught myself, but I didn't want to let go of my sandwich. So I read on the back of toilet bowl cleaner you're not supposed to mix it with bleach, not thinking there's any logical reason for this except because it does something awesome they don't want you to know about. So in my parents' 2-car garage with all the doors and windows closed, I take a bottle of bleach and toilet bowl cleaner and mix it in a gallon jug. Next thing I know, there is white smoke coming out the top of the gallon jug and it's making me cough. I back away and start coughing harder. So at this point I run and open both garage doors and run to the back of the garage and open the back door. I run out into the backyard where I coughed the hardest I have ever coughed before. I ended up having a really bad cough for like a week. I didn't want to go to the doctors because I would have had to admit what I did and my parents would have killed me. After a while it went away and I've been fine since, so I guess no harm. After a few hours the garage had aired out and I found 2 dead doves and a couple of dead mice. Turns out toilet bowl cleaner has ammonia in it. Bleach and ammonia make chlorine gas. The more you know. TLDR. Made chlorine gas in my parents' garage. I haven't read the whole thread, but so far you've come the closest to actually dying. You're the firecracker guy. So, I had just removed my air intake manifold from my car's engine because it was clogged as frick with soot. That's what I get for driving a diesel with an EGR valve, but oh well. And I'm preparing to clean it out with a pressure washer. I had that thing ratcheted up to 2 psi or so and the stream couldn't have been more than 3 mm wide. I thought, or didn't really think. TBH. that I would just hold the manifold at arm's length and spray into it. As soon as I pull the trigger, the pressure washer jumps, and I spray the frick out of my hand. It carved an inch-long gouge in my skin at the base of my thumb all the way down to the bone. So now I'm all like frick. That was stupid. I go inside, stop the bleeding and put a bandage on it. Then I go back outside and decide to hold it down on the ground with my foot and spray into it to spare my hand. But as soon as I pull the trigger, the washer jumps and sprays the frick out of my foot because I wasn't wearing any fricking shoes like some kind of unstoppable moron. TLDR. I sprayed my own hand and then my own foot with a pressure washer. BTW, if you ever want some body art that's not a tattoo, you could draw a pretty sweet picture on yourself with a pressure washer. When it heals, it'll leave behind a very clear and detailed scar. Hurts like heck, though. Upvoted for like some kind of unstoppable moron. The shower bars in my dorm's communal bathrooms were very stout and could support a man's weight. We did naked pull-ups on them, and it was invigorating. I tried the same thing on the bar for the handicapped shower, which was 2-3x as long. Increased length of moment arm meant that the supports would need to resist greater torque. They did not. At the apex of my first badass chest to bar pull-up, the bar came out, landed on my tailbone, naked, was bruised for about a month. One time I fell off a ladder and landed on my coccyx. One of the most painful things I've ever felt. A few weeks ago I ended up at some party after a night out. I knew a few people but the majority I met that night. Anyway, there was this SpongeBob SquarePants helium balloon sitting about and for some reason I thought it'd be a brilliant idea to burst it under my t-shirt. So I jam it under and try running into walls a few times, have people punch it, nothing. SpongeBob is standing his ground. By then people were starting to look at me strangely but I was highly intoxicated and thought I was being real cool and funny. So after the unsuccessful battle with Mr. SquarePants I decided if I just dropped down on my stomach from standing up straight it'd definitely go. It didn't. I basically flipped right on my face in the middle of a bunch of people and felt my nose explode all over my t-shirt and cream carpet. I was beaten up by a SpongeBob SquarePants balloon. I really expected this story to end up with you getting stabbed. I had just gone for a swim at midnight in the hotel's pool with some mates. I realized as we got out that we didn't bring towels, and I was pretty cold. So I did the only logical thing I could think of, run around the pool as fast as I can. I ran on the grassy bit, but it was very dark as there were no lights as, again, it was midnight. So here I am, running around a pool to get dry, barely being able to see. I realized after the first lap that I wasn't really dry enough so I kept running. I also realized that I hadn't gone for a good run in years, and was curious as to what my max speed was nowadays. So I am running as fast as I can, which is pretty fast. I'm tall and skinny, and then white. Oh god, pain, whiteness, frick frick frick, feel mouth, blood everywhere, scramble for glasses, so much pain. Friends laughing hysterically. No one has any idea what happened though. Long story short, I ran full speed into a support beam for the shade structure around the pool, which was head height and diagonal. I must have been closer to the pool on my first lap as I just missed it. I chipped a few teeth and had to get stitches in my lip. Not the best story, but I got a scar. B loved scars. Unfortunately for you, B also loved teeth. I was about 7 or so. My friend's dad had an at-home office with an old copy machine, the kind where the entire top tray of glass moves, not just the light underneath. Well, one day we decided it would be fun to photocopy our butts. We saw it on TV or something. I was sitting on the tray as it slid across the machine and all of a sudden there was an intense pain coming from my scrotum. What happened was that the loose skin of my scrotum had become caught in the slide mechanism as the glass went through it. It was quite painful. Didn't require sticks or anything, but telling his mom what had happened after she heard my screams was quite embarrassing. Surprisingly little blood too, and that is why I can't use a copy machine to this very day. When I was really cool in middle school I used to wear a spiked collar and a matching bracelet. I'm not sure why my parents let me out of the house, because these things were sharp. My friends constantly complained about me accidentally scratching them when my hand would brush by theirs, etc. Well, One day, we're sitting in science class and the kid in front of me and I are joking around. He reveals he knows who I have a crush on and I get incredibly flustered and decide it's the right time to freaking fassap him, only to get the point of one of my wrist spikes schlunked into the bridge of my nose. Missed my eye by mere millimeters and I was lucky enough to walk away without a scar. There was blood, however. Oh, there was blood. Never wore those stupid things again. Thus marking the first time the phrase "when I was really cool in middle school" was ever uttered. In elementary school, my friend had a habit of embellishing when he would get pushed or anything. He would flop like a professional soccer player. I decided to give him some crap for it, and my friend gave me a tiny push. I flopped down into the snow and started to roll. I rolled an unnecessary number of times, and was stopped abruptly by a pole to the face. I actually did think this was funny, and got up laughing along with my friends. Their faces quickly got serious and they informed me that I was bleeding all over. I had split my eyebrow open from the fatter pole. It only needed 3 stitches, and I thought it made me look badass at hockey games, but it was dumb. TLDR, fatter pole. Back in 6th grade I was a huge DBZ fan. One day I donned my wristbands and decided to beat up on the punching bag we had down in our basement at the time. I ended up drop kicking it, losing my balance, falling back on my hands and breaking both of my wrists. 2 black casts for the entirety of that summer. I tried to throw a rock at a chicken when I was 12. I swung my arm so hard in the act I smashed my hand on my thigh and my thumb did a 180-degree turn backwards. Had to wear cast. Never hit the chicken. Well, it served you right. Me at 8. Dad, hey, don't touch that, it's hot. Me, reaches out hand and touches hot metal. 30 minutes later, cut to dad and me sitting in doctor's lobby. Dad looks pee. Hot crap burns. My sister liked to experiment with me. I was 6 or 7 this particular time. I'd been bothering her to hang out with me. She is 3 years older, and lights years smarter, and she finally gave in. She grabbed 2 pretty sturdy pieces of cardboard, some duct tape, and proceeded to duct tape the cardboard rectangles to my arms. I now had wings. We lived out in the country, and we had a 20-25 foot drop from the top of the mobile home to the ground because it was parked at our 10-foot cliff. For whatever reason I didn't question her. She told me to run and jump off the RV, flap as hard as I could, and I would probably fly. Nah. Instead I dropped like a rock into scrap metal and spent the next few weeks wobbling around with my body bruised and cut up everywhere. I think this was before she convinced me to climb our 50-foot pine tree and jump with an umbrella. I don't think your sister likes you. I was 17 and trying out for a new baseball team, and the tryouts were taking place on a crappy softball diamond that had been left relatively unkept for most of the summer. The coach called on me to pitch a little and show him my heat, which was rather impressive for my age. After a few successful pitches, the catcher tossed the ball back to me in the usual, routine fashion, but ended up going just a little bit higher than he had aimed. I did a small bunny hop to catch it, which is not unusual for a pitcher to do, and happened to land on my ankle in an odd way. The result was horrifying. My ankle twisted clean around 180 degrees before snapping loudly back into place. I had torn literally all the ligaments on the anterior outer side of my right ankle, and it turned every color of the rainbow over the next few weeks, including the brightest, most beautiful shade of sky blue, I crap you not, I had ever seen. I never bothered to have it surgically repaired and it did not heal correctly. I should really look into it. Anyhow, long story short, I netted myself a career-ending injury over a girly little bunny hop and a poorly kept mound full of ditches and bumps. Not exactly the most manly war story. Including the brightest, most beautiful shade of sky blue, I crap you not, I had ever seen. This detail makes this story one of the most painful ones I've read in the different incarnations of this thread on Reddit. Just awful. Also, I'm convinced that your body was starting to turn into an avatar. I had been working for a family friend's trucking company when I was 14 when their oldest son approached me to play paintball with him and his friends. They had an extra gun but not an extra mask, but I rationalized that my unbreakable polycarbonate sunglasses should do the trick. Besides, do people really get shot in the face whilst playing paintball? I go meet up with the rest of the kids out in the back lot, all about 3-4 years younger than I, and play a few games. Well, I knew that I had to get back to work, so I became determined that we were not going to lose the last match. I pumped myself up. I am alpha. 2 kids had taken cover from our hail of paint behind the open doors of an old pickup truck cab. This was my chance. I was bigger than the rest of the kids. I was faster than the rest of them. I was braver, and I had started to grow facial hair. So this was my chance to assert my dominance. Ordering the rest of my team to lay down some cover fire, I sprinted the cab like a madman. The kids dive into the cab and close the doors. They think they're clever, but as I mentioned before, I am John Rambo. I run right up the hood, slide over the roof and tear open the sliding window on the back of the truck. I fire wildly into the open window, hitting my marks, feeling like a boss when suddenly a wild barrel appears. I took a paintball right to the eye, right in those unbreakable polycarbonate lenses. I ended up having to have broken shards of glass removed from the skin around my eye. I had to have plastic surgery when I was 14 to rebuild my tear ducts and the flesh in my eye socket. I still count it as a win though. As a former paintball referee, this whole story made me wince in fear. I jumped out of my chair and started running a victory lap around the house when I beat Minesweeper's expert board in 58 seconds. Slipped. Sprained shoulder. Was going to catch frogs with my friend, but my younger cousin wanted to come with us. I told him to go fetch something inside my house. He goes inside and I try to get away as fast as I can in my bike. He noticed that and goes outside again, crying. I turn my head while riding my bike and start laughing at him. At this very moment I turned the wheel horizontally. The bike stopped immediately and I flew to the ground. Then I was the one crying and my cousin was the one making fun of me. Karma in action. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.